Thanks, Anish. Whenever you're ready, we'll get started.
Thank you, Helen. First question. Much gratitude to you, Helen, for your generous sharing of this valuable teaching. My question is this. As I understand it, non duality says that we don't choose our thoughts. However, it seems to me that sometimes, at least I do, I seem to be able to choose to think, for example, the thoughts that result in me typing these words in this particular order. I may choose to spend some time thinking what I experience as uplifting, positive, helpful thoughts. And so I do. If we don't ever choose our thoughts, how could you present satsangs as you do? How could any of us be coherent in our words and actions? If our thoughts arise spontaneously without any intervention from us, then aren't we automata? Wouldn't our lives and the world be chaotic? That is more than it is, with sincere thanks.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And the idea that thoughts are causing our actions and our words, and that we can even choose our thoughts in the way that we think, is just really not what's happening. Although it seems to be that I can have an intention to think more positive thoughts, for example, and that there might seem to be more positive thoughts after I have this intention. Or I might have the intention, for example, to be more spontaneous in my actions, and that's what seems to happen. But the intention itself is simply a thought. And when we look at it, we don't really have any direct proof that our thoughts are causing our actions and our words. It seems to be that way. But even if they were, can we find a separate person, a someone? Am I a person who's in charge of or in ownership of my thoughts? So, where is the decision or the choice coming from, the intention thought? Where does that arise from anyway? A thought arises that says, I'd like to have more positive thoughts. Where does it belong to a person or to something very, very different? Is it arising out of the formless silence that we are? So the reason why it seems that if I have an intention in the example that we're using, I intend to have more positive thoughts, less negative ones, it will seem to be that way. But the intention thought isn't causing anything. The intention actually is arising from a predominant or prevailing level of energy, vibration in the mind and body. And that is coming from where our attention is hanging out more and more often. So if my attention is on what's real, the formless silence that I am, then I'm more likely to have more uplifting thoughts anyway, and an intention for something even better will come. If my attention, on the other hand, is on my thoughts most of the time, this separate sense of a self that isn't really real, then my body mind is going to be operating at a much lower frequency. And so the thoughts that come with that are going to have to vibrate at that frequency. So it's an indirect way that we can choose our thoughts. We bring attention back more and more to what is real about us. Keep seeing that there isn't actually a person here organizing our lives, that the life that we're living is arising spontaneously from that silence that we are. And in the recognition ever more clearly and ever more deeply of who we are, then the body and mind are automatically freed up of more and more limiting beliefs. And the overall frequency keeps rising and rising and rising of the body and mind. And the content of the mind is going to be of a higher frequency. Each thought has a frequency, a vibration. And so we can only think thoughts, have thoughts that are, and actions and words that are in that same vibrational resonance with where our body and mind is hanging out. If we're believing in separation, we're kind of down here. If we're seeing more and more who we are, we're shifting the frequency of the mind and body. That's not why we're seeing who we are. We're seeing who we really are because it's what's true. But it has this added bonus of upgrading the body and mind and the thoughts. So thoughts aren't causing anything, they're pouring directly out of the infinite silence that we are. Even an intention to have a particular thought is arising because that's the frequency we're operating on anyway. So you have to kind of be in a loving energy to even have a thought about wanting more loving thoughts, at least to receive them, to actually have them show up. Many times we've felt some self-hatred or some guilt or shame or something, and we've asked for more um, loving thoughts. I'd like to be kinder to myself, but it's coming from an energy of self-hatred or shame. And all we get from there is more of those particular thoughts, shame, etc. So this isn't really how our mind thinks it is. How it actually works is quite different. So you might need to just kind of sit with this a little bit and see. It guards against chaos, actually. The chaos happens in a human kingdom when we think we're actually choosing our thoughts, because then we think we've chosen the wrong thoughts. Then we start to blame ourselves and all of that. But actually, there's no chaos or randomness possible in this system because our thoughts that are going through the mind are going to be directly in line with the vibration of the body and mind, which is always being upgraded every day as we keep seeing who we are, meditating, all of that. So, hope that helps.